Hello, Adam.
Hello, is this it?
This is the actual
wow,
thing.
this is exciting. I'm very excited to be here.
You are? You make films.
I do, yes, on occasion, when I can be asked. But yes.
Before we started, we were talking about motivation a great deal. And I was wondering, what do you use to get motivated?
Music, I think, is a big one. Every time I start a project, I make a big playlist of soundtracks from similar things or songs that I like from the period or whatever it is. I'll be honest, I do struggle with motivation a lot. So a lot of my working will be when I'm in the mood to be doing it. I am notoriously lazy. So it is essentially whenever I can find the motivation to do it and get working. But yeah.
Right, of course. As an artist, it's kind of difficult to set yourself a time from this time to this time I'm going to be writing, because it just might not be there.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, 100%. Exactly.
It's interesting that you said you listen to soundtracks or things around that time to feel the piece that you're writing about. Like you're sort of working and building up the impulse, the creativity inside that relates to that subject.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's it. That's totally it. I do listen to a lot of podcasts and interviews with better people than me, so I can hear about their processes and stuff and people that I look up to. But yeah, music podcasts such as this. Hopefully one day someone will listen to this and be like, wow, that great director and podcaster Ali and Adam, they're so good. I need to learn how their process works.
With their
Then
10 billion
they'll
net worth.
discover that I talk shit and don't know what I'm talking about. So yeah, sorry guys if you're listening.
I want us
Future
to let down.
generations. Yeah.
We've done it. We've let them down before even
Sorry.
being great. You're really into comedy as well.
Yes, I think that's sort of where that's the same sound that Charlie made in the other podcast.
It is.
I see. Sorry, referencing. Is that just what it is? Just putting the thing down the table?
Yeah,
It is.
it's the
That's
ceremonial.
a design flaw. It's like a gong. Hello. Sorry, what did you ask me?
Yeah.
Something about comedy.
Yes, you worked a lot with comedy in the past,
Yes.
and you're a funny person in general. Just
Oh, thank you very much. I try.
And you do well. And you started a comedy group.
I did.
Panic Button.
Oh, yes.
You-
Flashbacks. With my friends Ben Fuller, Christian Foote, and no one else ever. Not a fourth member that we no. I'm joking. Fourth member was initially a guy called Lewis Ford, who was very, very good, but we split part, and now it's a constant joke within the group that we never ever had a fourth member. And we sort of pretend that he died or something, and that we never ever reference his existence. And then Alice Paget, who was my girlfriend at the time, also joined, which was obviously a recipe for disaster.
Yes.
But yeah, but it was the core essence was the three of us, myself, Ben Fuller, and Christian Foote. But the group's sort of dead now. It's sort of dead.
Right.
And the stuff we did was very limited. But we had sort of visions of what we could do and stuff like that. But yeah, no, it was good. It was a good thing to do through our sort of early teens and stuff.
Definitely. Something to focus on to keep you healthy.
Yes, yeah, very much so.
Mentally.
And gave us an excuse to see each other, which was
Also,
also good.
yeah, you're not just meeting up like the average teenager does to drink, or even it's becoming more common nowadays to take drugs, and that's how a lot of friend groups sort of integrate each other. Yeah, develop. Whereas you guys have this brilliant art.
This authentic art thing, yeah. Also, we like dicking about, and sometimes maybe filming it might justify it a bit more. But yeah, no, it was good. It was very good.
Right, and you use the dicking about to be able to create more comedy.
Essentially, yeah. I wish it was more artistic than it was, but we were just sort of doing it for fun, as something to do for ourselves. And then it always died when we tried to take it too seriously and sort of apply any sort of model to it and business thing. It always got too intense. And that's why we just sort of, it's more of a casual thing than a career chasing opportunity that we'll just do something if it comes up and we all think it's funny, basically.
Right, totally. I had that issue this summer when I tried to create a clothing brand with a friend, and it was going really well. We had these great ideas, and then I tried to make it very much like scheduling times to meet, having meetings, saying we have to branch out into this section, or that doesn't fit our audience category, and it ruined it totally. It made it too serious.
Exactly, yeah. I think that does happen with a lot of things. Like, I've had endless production companies that I've started with my friends and stuff that have just sort of petered out because it's, once we've designed the logo, which we really enjoy, then we just sort of don't know where to take it. So, yeah, there's been loads of that sort of stuff that I've done. But yeah, it's just, I think the only way you can really progress into a career path is by doing it with yourself or finding someone that wants to do it themselves as well. Because otherwise there will always be someone who really wants to push for it and the other person is less motivated, if that makes sense. Not necessarily doesn't care at all, but I think that happened with a lot of the panic button stuff. Is I was the one who started it and was driving it, but then everybody else had their own stuff to do, which is perfectly fine. I'm not like annoyed, but I think it was just, I was mainly doing the driving for it, and in that situation, it's always going to fail, I think. So if you find someone that's doing similar things to you individually on their own, and then in that case you can merge with them and you'll both have that same drive because you would have done it on your own anyway. And then you can work on each other's strengths and weaknesses and then just become something better. But yeah, still sort of looking for that.
That's clever. Oh, you haven't found that yet?
Not particularly. I've got lots of people. Like, I'm trying to work on a series with another friend of mine called Ben, not the same one, which would be sort of...
Is that Hibbert?
Yes, Hybert.
Hybert.
Swedish. Yeah.
Oh, Hybert.
So, Hybert. What do we do Irish? What was that all about?
Hybert.
Hybert. Yeah, no, he's Swedish. I found out there's an interesting story about his... I'm not telling you this. I've already forgotten what the story about his family name is, but there is a story there, and it goes back a while. So maybe you should get him on the podcast to talk about his story. It might be short. I don't know.
I'll enjoy that. Yeah, I'll remember that.
No, good. Yeah. Yeah, so we're trying to work on that, but it's also a slow process. But it's just, he's got this very unique type of humour, which I sort of fell in love with immediately, because he's just so wonderfully strange and loud, and a lot of the humour is just loud, and just normal sentences said loud is always really funny to me. So we're trying to work on that, but I just sort of, my sense of humour changed a lot when I met Ben, because everything that I was doing was sort of developed from him. So that's why I sort of think that that's a good pairing. But again, it's not something I'm going to push really far, but we'll just do it if it happens. So, yeah.
Yeah,
sort
when
of
the
a
opportunity
sketch show
comes
sort
up.
of thing is what it is.
Right,
Cut
okay.
you straight off then. I was just thought, I've talked about this, but not given you any context as to what it actually is. So I thought I might tell you a little bit, but it's not been announced or anything. We're not going to, there's no money tied to it or anything like that, but it's just an idea.
You don't want to ruin it again by making it very serious.
Exactly. We'll do it for really, really cheap, probably free if possible, if we do it at all.
Yeah, and that's also a great way to eventually make money, because you'll start with these free projects. You'll really improve your skills. You'll know what the audiences find funny, because certain videos will get more likes, and then the money could start rolling in.
Exactly, yeah.
That's not the focus.
I think if you've got something really, really good anyway, then it will just happen. Like I always said with the panic button stuff, I was like, there's no way we won't be successful if we work really, really hard on it. Like we can pay for advertising, which will get us views. Like we can pay for like Facebook, I don't know what it's called when they just do Facebook adverts and just put it out onto people's feeds.
Oh God.
You know,
not promotion. Yeah,
that sort of thing. And you could do that, and you could pay. You could essentially buy views. So if we really, really wanted to, we could do it. So I always think that's the case, that you will be successful in whatever you're doing if you spend enough time doing it.
Yeah, totally. I agree with you. Yeah, and if you have that drive, like let's say you spend 8 hours working on a film idea, but if you don't have the drive and the motivation, you might have written a few scenes. But if you've got that drive, that love of film, that love of connecting with the audience, I suppose, you really will make beautiful work.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Yeah.
Do you think you have that drive?
I mean, I really, really hope I do. I think I am just genuinely just so lazy in general, but I think a lot of the times I do have like weeks where I'll push for something like really hard and I'll do it. Like in theory, if you write 10 pages a day for 9 days, and that's a full length script. So, and I could totally write into it. Like the last days of all my uni deadlines, 100%, I write more than 10 pages a day. I can, because I've not done anything else for the whole periods of before that. But like, yeah, no, so it's certainly possible to motivate yourself and do that, but it's like I really struggle with things like that. But I've got loads of treatments and stuff for ideas and things that are outlines for like full length films, but as soon as I try and write them, I just really struggle with the actual like sitting down and typing phase and dialogue and that sort of stuff. So that's what I'm trying to work on at the moment, focusing on that. But yeah,
is it like it's not that you don't have the creativity, it's that you cannot stay focused on the project?
Exactly. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I've got loads of what I would assume to be great ideas, and I've literally got a 20-page document which is the story from start to finish, but with no dialogue in it. Right. And that I'm like, great, that's cool. I'm really happy with it. But now I'm like, I just need to translate that into actual scenes and dialogue and action, and it's just that's the bit I'm struggling with. If somebody else came and did that, then I could take it from there easily. But
if someone what? Sorry.
If someone came and did that part of it, the dialogue, and the actual first draft, I think that would be my ideal way of working. Is I come up with an idea, I outline it with all the the beats, like the midpoints and the act breaks and stuff like that, and then I'll send it to someone else. They'll just type it up as a script, and then I'll come and revise it from there. But it's just that first period that I really struggle with. But also, in this sense, I'm talking about all this stuff. I've read all these books about script structure and things like that, but I've also never really completed a full-length script. Really? So no, that's my next stage. I can't. I we'll talk about all of this theory and stuff, but until I've actually applied it for something that works, it's not going to be that helpful.
Totally. Yeah. With Everybody's Gone.
Oh my God, I knew that was going to come up at some point. Nobody looked that up. Stop, I can't believe I'm talking about my writing process and you're referencing a student film that was basically just a sequence of events. Go on, what are you going to say?
I personally loved it. I thought it was a really funny film. Like when he rolls over the car and it's like a really cool action scene. He just lands in the grass. Like there's these hilarious beats one after another.
There were some really, really good bits in it. But interesting, that's another thing I learned. Like, not that bit, but the bit where they're walking down an alleyway. This is also Ben and Chris, who are also the two people that I did Panic Button stuff with. There's a bit where they walk down an alleyway and turn off to the right, and then Ben just goes the wrong way and then runs across back. I didn't write that. Nobody even told me he was going to do that. We were just there, and he just went left, and I was literally like pissing myself behind the camera. I thought it was so funny. And then the other bit that I find really funny was when, spoiler alert, Ben gets attacked by one of the scumbies, which is also me.
Yes.
And then Chris just runs away, and then Jazz turns to me and goes, what are we going to do? And then Chris is just like literally 5 miles away. He's like, leave him. But that bit was also something that Chris just added on the day, and that's where I think the funniest stuff comes from. So in future, I'm always making sure that I leave room for improv and stuff, because a lot of my favourite stuff has been like actor driven and written by the actors that are in it and stuff like that. Like, have you seen Sightseers?
No.
It's a film. Do you know who Steve Oram and Alice Lowe are?
I don't.
It's my favourite film of all time. They're those British actors that you probably don't know the name of, but you will recognise immediately if you see them.
Right.
And they wrote it, and they are also in it. The film was directed by Ben Wheatley, and it's really beautiful, and it's also one of those films that debunks the myth that comedy can't be pretty to look at, because I think if you look at a lot of TV and films, comedy films are pretty blandly shot in the majority of the cases.
Yeah.
Because I think they focus a lot on the content as opposed to the medium, which does work for some things, but I think it's good to know that you can have that overlap between like the pretty artsy stuff and the traditional sort of popcorn film style things.
Yeah, totally.
That are just really easily accessible. I think that's one of the things I'd also really like to do, is bridge that gap a bit, and that was probably one of my aims as a creative would be to sort of bridge those two, the traditional narrative, everyman sort of stuff that people will watch, and also artsy things.
Totally. Have you seen Us?
I've not, but I've seen Get Out, which
Yeah.
is his first one, Jordan Peele. I thought Get Out was so good. That was amazing. I have not seen Us yet, though, but it is on my list, so maybe I'll get to it soon.
Yeah. That Jordan Peele has that excellent talent of, it is very rare in the industry, like you say, but he has that excellent talent of being able to merge the art and the comedy and the horror and the political commentary underneath it all as well. It's this blend of genres. So I think it exists to an extent, but like you said, it really needs to be merged.
I'm not saying that it's like an original idea or something, blending like, weird thematic experimental stuff and like normal stuff. People have done it, like you say, with Jordan Peele, loads of people. Ben Wheatley's a big one as well, who's the guy who did Sightseers. I mentioned him twice, that's so embarrassing.
God, I'm such a fan guy.
No, I actually am. I really am. He lives in Brighton. He's a good guy. He replies to my Instagram messages quite frequently, so that's always good.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, but he's always been doing that sort of stuff. Some of his stuff's like weird black and white, like psychedelic stuff, and he's also now just signed on to do The Meg 2, which is the sequel to the Jason Statham film where he fights a massive shark.
Whoa.
So it's a very varied range of stuff that he takes on. But that's also something I'd like to do, which is make sure that I'm not limited to one thing. Because like at the moment I'm trying to develop my first feature length project with some people with money, which I'm not going to talk about, just in case.
Yeah. Is that like a copywriting issue or?
No, it's just I'm worried that if I say it, it won't happen.
Like jinxing it in a way.
Yeah, yes, okay. Exactly. And also, I don't know. It's very, very early on in the discussion process, but so there's that which is happening. I've also got this script that I was talking about, which is just an idea. And I've also got another idea. Two of these ideas are mockumentary format things, like The Office or... Lollipopping.
Yes, referencing your own films.
Exactly, yeah. And that's something I'm worried about, because those are the two cheapest ideas to do, which means, in all likelihood, they'll be the first ones that I end up doing. And the problem with that is if I get into this rhythm of doing comedy mockumentaries, I'm worried that if they blow up and people see them, then I'll be the comedy mockumentary guy, as opposed to the guy who's got a bit more strings to his bow. So yes, I want to do a variety of genres and styles and things, just to sort of keep myself happy. If,
I suppose you'd feel really restricted and tied down if you were just doing comedy mockumentaries.
But at the same time, I absolutely love it, and I wouldn't have all these ideas for them if it wasn't something I was really interested in. So yes, no, I do love the format. There's nothing wrong with it at all, but I do just want to make sure that I'm keeping that, not getting hooked into one.
Yeah, that's really good. It's amazing that you've already got that vision. You seem like the sort of person that has a huge vision for the future.
That is the thing I try and put across to people, but also I very much don't. I try and make sure that I'm quite big on presenting myself as someone that knows what they're doing. And also something Maisie, my partner, told me a long time ago was, she's a bit older than me, so she's 22 now, and I'm still 19, and we've been together for 2 and a bit years. So there's this, in fact, no, 3 years. Oh my God.
Oh Jesus!
Don't
make sure she does,
Maisie. Yeah. Lockdown year doesn't count, I've decided. So that's what I'll say. Okay. Yeah, so it's been a long time. So I was very naive and very really like, I'm going to do all these great things in my life. And not that I'm not like that anymore, but there was certainly a period where I lost that. And I think it was when I was getting much more into the corporate side of film and the industry, where I was working on lots of like charity films and films for like local events and stuff like that, which is still great. And I'd love that to be like my full-time job. And then every so often I stop and go and make a film for however much. That would be fantastic. But yeah, I think there was a phase where I was like, I'm in this position now where I'm making a relatively good amount of money and I've got opportunities for full-time work in what is essentially the film industry on a very local, for the benefit of the tape, I just did inverted commas with my fingers.
Thank you.
Yeah, so in essence, a local film industry, which is much better than a lot of people will have. So should I stop now and just focus on that and keeping that going and have my own little local production company? Or should I go for the thing that I really, really want? And the answer is obviously go for the thing that you really, really want. However, when you're in it, you're like, I don't really know what I should do. And in fact, the only reason, the thing that really kicked me up at this when this producer guy that I was talking about earlier started showing interest in some of the stuff I'd done, because then I was like, oh shit, even if this doesn't go through, it shows that someone who is quite high up in the film industry has got some sort of interest in what I'm doing, which means there's something there.
Yeah.
And that's worth exploring and developing. So yeah, that sort of kicked me up, and now I'm feeling much more positive about my whole thing. But it is just so sad. It's like, it's such a horrible industry where people will always tell you it's so difficult to get into and stuff like that. But all of the stuff that I've done so far has just been by chance, by meeting people that like I can do it with. And for some people that might not ever happen, but for me, I've been very privileged in that I've just met basically every lead I've chased has led to something like beneficial for me, even if it's just meeting someone that I wanted to meet, or being involved with an event and getting some money out of that. Like, there's a guy called Joe Lynn in London who's a director, and he's really good mates with Noel Fielding and those sort of people up there. And another friend of his called Mercedes Grower made a really low budget film, in fact, 0 budget film, with a load of her actor friends who are like Paul McGann, 8th Doctor, he was in it.
Paul McGann?
The 8th
Was
Doctor.
that the one
yeah.
before Christopher Eccleston?
Before Christopher Eccleston, yeah, in the TV movie, which was a bit awful.
The one with the master where there's something
American.
about blood or something like that.
Yeah, it's very strange.
That was a weird movie.
It was very odd. But yeah, loads of British actors. Julian Barrett from The Mighty Boosh, as well as Noel Fielding, and people like that. And it was all done for free, and it was all just done as favours to her. So I went to one of her screenings for that and was like, oh, this is really good. And I honestly went because it had a Q&A with Noel Fielding, Julian Barrett, and a load of these other actors. And I was like, that sounds really cool. And it was a really strange thing because Noel Fielding and Julian Barrett... have you ever watched The Mighty Boosh?
I have, yes.
Okay, so I just realised I was talking about this as if everybody knows who they are, but I realised you might not.
The Mighty Boosh, for the listeners, is a comedy TV show that is brilliant. Yeah, we have to act like we've got like another third person here that doesn't have a clue.
Like a little alien child who doesn't know anything. We can help you, sir. It's all right. We'll teach you about the ways of the film industry.
Oh, that is a nice way of thinking about it. I'll try and think about that more.
Yes, it's good. Podcasting tips from someone who's never been on a podcast.
Wow, thank you, Adam.
Yeah, so I went like, oh my God, this is amazing, because these two people, Julian Barrett and Noel Fielding, haven't been seen together since like in a public event for so long. And not many people went, and I went and watched the film, and I thought that was a really, really good film. Even though it was really low budget, and it was just really fun. It's split in 2 halves, part 2 and part 1. Yes, that was not a slip of the tongue. It begins on part 2, and the second half of the film is part 1.
Oh yeah, that didn't even register.
Yeah, no, it's these. I think it's maybe 10 couples breaking up for the first half of the film. Just splitting up and having arguments. You see how they break up, and then the second half of the film is how they got together and how they met, which is a really interesting way of putting it, because you feel like somewhat optimistic, even though you know that it's going to end.
Oh yeah,
if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's a really strange film, but it's really nice, and it's really, really funny, and it's just great to see all these great British comedians improvising, basically.
Oh, it's improv.
Yeah, it's really, really great.
How is it possible to make a no-budget film? Because the cameras and...
That it's shot on very, very poor cameras and no lights or anything, and it really, really focuses heavily on the performances.
Right.
So you look at it and you go, oh my god, this looks like a YouTube video from 2012 or whatever, but it holds up because it's so well directed and it's got all these fantastic performers in it. But no, and anyway, I went there and got to meet Noel Fielding and Julian Barrett, which was basically what I wanted to do, and that's why I went there. And then I found myself thinking more and more about the film afterwards, and I was like, I really got to do more research into this, because it was really uplifting anyway for someone who doesn't have any money, to see that you can make films that will get proper distribution and cinema releases without any money.
Yeah, totally.
She did it very illegally.
Really?
But it's just sneaking. It's all shot in London, so you got to have permits and stuff for London and things, and I don't think they did. But
good job to them, Anarchy.
Yes, yeah. So then she was doing this tour. I didn't meet her at that point. I just met the famous people that I wanted to meet because I'm a nerd. And I saw she was doing one in Southampton, which is pretty local to us, for listeners not from the Dorset area. And I went there with Ben Hybert when we were just starting planning everybody's scone. And we thought, oh, we'll go see her, see if we can talk to her and stuff. Mainly with the thing of just networking. And so we met and we had a chat, and she was really, really nice. And she invited us back to her hotel, and we sat in the lobby and had a nice chat with her. That sounds really creepy. It wasn't like that. But so we just sat and had a nice chat with her for a couple of hours, and it was great. And we got she said I looked like Noel Fielding, so she texted a photo of me to Noel Fielding, which is still like one of the weirdest things that's happened. I'm like, wow, that's just strange. And the fact that Noel Fielding's at some point in his history got a photo of me on his phone really freaks me out. I'm quite obsessed with celebrity, I have to admit.
It's incredible how you managed to meet all of these celebrities.
It makes me sound like really pretentious, but it was just going to all these places and meeting. But yeah, this woman, Mercedes, was really nice. And I then found this photographer and filmmaker called Joe Lynn, who is one of the most visually striking people in the world. He's, again, talking about this on a podcast is a bit silly, but he just looks like a pirate. He's got this fantastic, he's got a really, really strong look. And I went to meet him because I really liked his work. And I just went up and was like, hey, can we talk? Because I want to do what you're doing, basically. And he was like, yeah, sure. And we met in a coffee shop. And he inspired me so heavily because he's just so nice and so down to earth. And he said to me about having a really strong look was really important because people will recognise you and remember what you look like because you're dressed like a fucking pirate.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, he's just a really cool guy. And then I went and did some photos for a film festival in London that he was at, because I just know him, and it was like just that sort of stuff. This is a really long-winded story that's not really that important, but it was just me saying that every lead I've chased has led to something in the future, which I think is just a good thing to know. Like the only way you're going to be able to get stuff done is if you know people that are doing it, really. And yeah, so that's what I'm trying to do.
Wow, I actually got given that advice very recently by someone close to me, telling me that it's all about networking, all about connecting.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
It shocks me that just being able to chase a lead can end up with you speaking to Noel Fielding or getting a selfie with Noel Fielding as well.
That was very much it. He walked into me, actually. That was at the first screening. I was there. I tell you what, that do you remember back in 2017, I say this, there are 1,000 terror threats in the UK, but when we went to London, my parents drove me because I was like 16 or something. And as we were driving into London, there was these reports of gunshots just round the corner of where this screening was. And I was like, oh my God, what's happening? What's going on? It turned out it was just a car backfiring. But there was a huge London lockdown where they shut everything and shut people in shops and stuff and had them going on. And I was like, oh, does this mean I still get to meet Noel Fielding or not? Yeah, no, so then we went there after all that had cleared up, and then he just walked into me on the way in. And I was like, oh, hi. Any reason I've come? You've just walked into me. Cool, nice. And then I just asked for a selfie. He was really, really ill. Really ill that day, but he turned up because obviously he was a big name for the Q&A, but he was really ill. I felt really bad for him because I sort of got him when he was all right, but then he had to sit down through the film, and then on his way out, everyone was like, there's like loads of that teenage girl. I was like, "No, could I have your photo?" And he was like, "Yeah, yeah." I felt really, really bad for him. So I sort of left him alone because I wanted to talk to him afterwards. I was going to be like, "Hey, I want to go," and just, sort of introduce myself, just so, not that I was expecting him to be like, "Yes, I will do your film now," but just if I'd said that at some point in the future, I could approach his agent and go, "Oh, hey, I met Noel at this event. We had a chat." And then, yeah. So I wanted to do that, but I left him because he looked very, very ill.
Yeah. It's very, very respectful that you didn't bother him. Like, I
mean,
imagine he gets hounded.
Yeah, as much as that, it was before Bake Off, actually. So it was before he was back in the public eye, really. But yeah, as much as it sounds like I was being nice, I did still ask this guy that doesn't know who I am for a photo with him, which I still sort of think, oh God, that's evil.
He seemed to have liked you, though. The face he pulled was...
he was a really, really nice guy. He was really sweet. And the fact that he was so happy to meet everyone, even though he was feeling awful, it was very, very, very sweet and kind.
Yeah, very selfless in that sort of a situation.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, you have also done a photo shoot with the, what was it, figure with meat?
Oh, yes. Yeah, that was, that's not quite as interesting as it sounds. That was for a, one of our college projects was to do some VFX stuff that was inspired by art. I can't remember what I did now. That wasn't mine, that was someone else's, but he was just, on the day the person he got to do it dropped out, and he was like, "Can you just come and do it?" And I was like, "Yeah, fine." He was like, it was very early in the start of the year. This guy called Connor, he's the guy who I said lives up there.
Oh yeah. Nice. Your rescue from a drunken
night out. And yeah, now I've forgotten what I was saying because I'm now trying to think about what I did. Salvador Dali, the clocks,
yes,
persistence of memory.
Museum. He's
Have you?
Incredible.
Oh, I'd love to do that.
It's beautiful.
Oh, he's great. I loved researching him. But yeah, anyway, so at the start of this year, I'd met this guy who I was really sort of not looking up to as such, but he was doing the same sort of stuff as I was. There's a certain thing with media where it's the easy option for a lot of people, because it's one of those courses that people will join when they don't want to do anything else and think, oh, sort of like theatre. I'm sure you might have come across people like this when they've gone, oh, I don't want to do anything. Maybe I'll just go and make films for 2 years and that'll be easy.
Yeah.
So you get that a lot. And it's also as a course, people see it as that. Unless you're really interested in that industry, people do just do it and think, oh, I'll just do this to doss about for a year or whatever. So there was a lot of that. And there were a lot of people that weren't really that interested. So it was really cool to have someone join who I'd seen a lot of his stuff before, and he'd done some really great shorts and just very similar stuff to what I was doing. So I was like, oh, this guy's really cool. But I didn't really speak to him that much. And then he was like, oh, Adam, this guy's dropped out. Would you come quickly run downstairs and do this? And I was like, yeah, sure, whatever. And then we do it, and we were sort of talking. And he was like, okay, could you take your shirt off, please? I was like, what? He was like, could you take your shirt off, please? And I was like, excuse me? And he was like, could you take your shirt off, please? And I was like, yes. And we've been friends ever since.
Happened in that room does not get spoken about.
Never ever be spoken. No, nice guy, good guy, Connor.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
Yeah, but that's the story behind that picture. He did the figure with meat thing from, who was it, Francis Bacon, I think.
I don't know.
I think it's
I looked up the original image. It's got like a man in the middle, like with these 3 figures around him, I think.
Probably. I don't know. Wasn't my project. I don't care. I just sat down in front of took my shirt off, let my hair down, and everyone was like, great, lovely.
Cool. We have a nude Adam on the
Exactly. Yeah. There's loads of like weird, like semi-nude photographs. Maybe point out once that I was like, there's loads of semi-nude photographs of me on my Instagram. I'm like, that's really strange because I'm quite self-conscious. But there's a photo that Ben took when it sounds so weird. When I got out of the shower, I was clothed beneath, but I went downstairs to meet him. I was just doing something. He took a photo of me and he was like, look at this nice photo. I'm like, that is a nice photo. I'm going to post it. However, now everyone's going to know that you're taking photos of me and my shirt off and think that something's going on there. But yeah. Yeah, loads of semi-naked photos of me that exist.
Mm. That's good. That's very,
I'm
very
glad you're
confident.
enjoying them.
Yeah, I am. I love it. Yeah, it's one of my favorite pastimes.
Looking at photos of me naked.
No, I can assure you, I do not.
That's fine. Whatever makes you happy, Ali, I really don't
That's
mind.
true.
I'm putting them out
Yeah.
there, and if people are consuming that media, then I'm more than happy.
Oh my Christ! Do you have a video on Panic Button as well, where you've got like a little what is it? I think it's a dildo. Ben's like flicking it, and then he just removes it.
I need to delete the internet. I'd forgotten about that entirely. When did you see that? Recently?
Well, yeah, just before this podcast, when I was doing a bit of
Oh
research.
god, I'm
and
going to
things
log
talk
into
about.
that account immediately. I forgot that account even exists. Christ. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, unfortunately, listeners, that content will not be available to be seen when this podcast goes out. Watch Ali now finish this, stop recording, instant post, so all of the viewers get to see all this stuff. Well,
I'm going to post it as the
half an hour.
actual. Sorry, what was
I
it?
said they'll have to listen for half an hour in order to find out about that information. So hopefully, even if you post it when I walk out the door,
Yeah.
I can still get on there in that half an hour and get rid of it.
What if I just posted it as a thumbnail, just a repeating loop?
Well, in that case, we will have a problem. I don't know how I will prevent that.
Oh,
You win this time, Ali.
haha! That's my mission in life. Christ.
To get Adam cancelled by
Yes.
some strange... It's not even cancel worthy. It's just... Basically, we had a prop dildo that we used for a video that never got released, coincidentally. And there's just a video of Ben grabbing it. That's all it is.
And removing it is a bit traumatic.
No,
to
okay. It's thought-provoking art.
It is, yes. Everything's art. Everything's a joke.
Exactly.
You also have made a film in 15 hours.
Oh, yeah.
That was incredible because I've been trying to write a film for the last 15 days.
Yeah, no, that was intense. That was a long day. That's got Lewis in it as well. Yeah, no, that was... The story of that was I was just doing loads of scripts and had loads of ideas, and I was like, none of these are actually getting made. Because like that's sort of one of my recurring character traits is that I'll have all these ideas, or I'll announce stuff that I'm doing on like my social medias, and then I just won't do it because it'll become too difficult or I'll get bored. So I'm really trying to stop doing that. And I think the reason behind that is because a lot of the ideas I have, I think they're really, really good for like 10 minutes and then get really excited about them. 10 minutes is a very, blasé number. But
Common.
yeah. I get really excited them for a short amount of time and I'll do loads of work on it and then I'll think about it a bit more and I'll think, actually, that's not actually that good. I don't know why I was that excited about it. Which I think is kind of good because it means that I'm filtering out the bad stuff. But so that's why at the moment I'm trying to wait on ideas that I've had and see if I keep thinking about them, because I think that's the key to a good idea for me, is that if I'm thinking about it for more time than I would usually, then I think there's something in it. And that's what I'm trying to do at the moment, filter out the good stuff from the bad.
That's a clever system. Because I've heard recently, do you know David Lynch?
I do, yes. I don't know him.
Oh,
that would be
well,
nice.
God,
Yeah.
that would be a treat.
No, I know of him, certainly.
He has this thing of ideas being like fish, and you can wait, and if you catch every fish that swims by, then you'll get like little fish, and you'll have a basket full of shitty little fish, and you just fucking fry up. They're not very good. Or you can just wait, and then eventually you get this huge fish. And that's pretty much what you're doing.
I completely agree with that. I have to admit, I'm not as well versed in David Lynch's work as I should be. All I really know about David Lynch is what I've heard from Charlie Jimenez, a previous guest on this podcast, who is arguably one of the greatest men to walk the earth, I think. I think he's just a true artist.
Jimenez or Lynch?
Jimenez.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely, yeah.
And probably Lynch. But no, it's just so uncompromising. I love that. I think he's one of those people that would just be endlessly successful. Even if he's not successful in the traditional sense, he will be so pleased in himself that he's sort of been true to his original vision. He's just mental. I saw it. Me and Maisie were out. My partner Maisie, we were out in Dorchester Town one time, pre-COVID, obviously.
Yeah.
And we were going around, and I bumped into him. I was like, "Hi, Charlie." And I was like, "Oh," and I was like, "Oh, what you got there?" And he was like, "Oh, I just bought some new dresses. Bought some new baby heads." I was like, "Okay, all right then, see ya, bye." I always think about that interaction because, he's just great. He's just great. Love him. I'd like to produce something he's done. He writes or wants to write and direct, because I'd quite like to stay away from the creative side and just be a sort of integrator for him and all of his mental ideas, because I think he's amazing.
He must have some crazy film ideas. Like, have you seen any of his animations?
I have, yeah. I love them.
That's brilliant. Did you see the costume he came in? Not costume, sorry. His outfit for the day. That he arrived here.
I did. I need to see this. That was amazing.
I'll show you afterwards.
Yes,
but it's these red and white striped trousers. I think they were bell bottoms. This white, purple, 2 different shades of purple striped, and this hat that looks like a mushroom was around this large.
I love that man so much. I remember he came to our sort of black tie screening for college, because he wasn't in my class, but the two, the animation department, which is where he was, and the film department, which is where I was, did a screening at the end of the year, which is sort of the competition for this award, the Code Award that we were talking about earlier.
Oh yeah,
that I won. And yeah, so he was there, and he was in this red dress with this. I think he had some sort of fleshlight on his throat. Oh, he's just mad. I love him. He's great. And his I think it's called a fugue. His animation that they showed. It was, I think, 6 minutes long. And I remember speaking to him afterwards, and I was like, "Charlie, that's really ambitious," because it's very simple and it's very minimalist. It's like very, very ambitious to keep this audience hooked, of this like huge traditional audience of people that are like wouldn't seek out artsy films. Usually it's all just parents of their kids who have been doing it, and friends and stuff. It's like very ambitious to make them sit there for these 6 minutes in this dark room, and it's like, yeah. I mean, it was originally 15, but the college maybe cut it down so that we could screen it. And I was like, imagine 15 minutes, all these old men being like, "Why is this guy like sanding down some wood for 15 minutes?" Oh, no, I love that film. So atmospheric. Great.
It is, yeah. Very atmospheric, yeah. It's
Legend.
a lot of work with lighting, and yeah.
It's so funny. It's just like, I can't get over the fact that it's like, yeah, it's 15 minutes. That seems fair. Like, no, Charlie, you can't do that. It's like, no, 15 minutes. I think that's the only time Charlie will compromise.
Is
for
timing.
Yeah.
The content will have to be.
Will stay. What was he was talking about? I have to admit, the only episode of this I've listened to is the one with Charlie.
Understandable.
Although Magician Chris was on here as well, wasn't he?
Yes.
I've got to listen to that one. He has no idea who I am, but I know who he is, because a mutual friend of ours, he asked a mutual friend of his and mine, he asked his friend, who's called David, who I also know, to edit a video for him. And Dave was like, "I'm not doing this because I don't really know how to edit it, but I know a guy who does, because I do a load of his music videos. He's a music producer." And yeah, so I was editing this video. So I know a lot about him, but he literally has no idea who I am at all. So send in this podcast and be like, "I edited your video and you don't know who I am."
So you did edit the video?
I did edit it.
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
He's literally got no idea that I assume he's got no idea that it wasn't David. But it wasn't. It was me all along.
You were the culprit.
I'm the puppet master.
Pulling strings in the background.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Oh, man.
But no, Charlie, genius. Love him.
Totally.
Anyway, you asked about that 15 hour film. 15 hour? Yeah. And he said 15 day. That's not as impressive, is it?
No, still hours. Impressive though.
Yeah. No, just did it because I was fed up of not finishing stuff. So I was like, if I just set a time and just go really, really hard at it, then it will get done. Okay. And I mean, it's all right. It's fine.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. It's got a very nice artistic element. It's got the nice shots from where it's like looking up whilst he's in the seat, and it's like got the 2 angles. It's got
2 angles. That's the reviews I'm looking for. This film has at least 2 angles, 5 stars. Actually, no, 6 stars. I've added an extra star for this film because of the sheer like visionistical idea of putting 2 different angles in it. That's amazing.
Oh,
sorry, sorry on your podcast.
No, it's brilliant. You're killing it. Yeah, so you've got 2 angles in this film.
2 whole angles. It's amazing.
And it's just impressive to me how you're able to make it so...
I'm so sorry, I was so mean to you. You were literally just saying how much you like my film. And I was like, you know what, Ali, time to literally like verbally beat you up.
It's fine. I have to deal with it. Need to toughen up a bit.
Well, thank you.
You're
I
welcome.
appreciate that. I'm honestly never pleased with the stuff that I do because there's always something wrong with it. And I know that there's always going to be no film or any sort of art is perfect, but there's always some pretty major things wrong with the stuff that I do, which is why another thing that I use to sort of motivate myself for the next thing, which I say that as if it's something, you know, interesting, using, you know, your mistakes and learning from them. That's no, you know, new idea. Loads of people do that.
Yeah.
But the point is that that's sort of where the next project comes from. If I think there's something majorly wrong, so for example, lollipopping, the last thing I did, well, actually, no, 2. I did a documentary, a short one after that. But the thing I disliked with lollipopping was just the cinematography of it. It was all shot in one day. And yeah, it was shot on cameras that aren't particularly great, just like DSLRs, and some of it was really overexposed. And I admit that I was sort of aware of this at the time when we were filming it and didn't really do much to stop it because I was like, oh, well, maybe it'll add to the documentary feel more authentic, and it didn't. It just looked shit. And so the next thing I did, I really focused heavily on visuals and colour grades and stuff like that, which is a documentary about my aunt called Ups and Downs, which is also on my IGTV. Have you seen that one?
I haven't, actually.
I'm really pleased with that. It looks really nice. But yeah, lollipopping. That's the big one that people seem to like. That I'm really interested in because I wrote that based on this guy who is in Sightseers called Steve Oram. He's a middle-aged ginger guy, and he's famous for he's northern. He's famous for doing all this angry stuff where he's just shouting at things and just doing, you know, all that and shouting. It was a very bad impression. He's from Birmingham. I don't know where that was. But he just shouts and stuff and gets angry. And that was sort of the idea, was that there's just this really angry, grizzly old man, not old, middle-aged, sorry, Steve, who is just in this job where he has to be nice to children all the time. And that sort of was lost when I was like, well, I've got to do it for really cheap and locally, and because my college deadline's coming soon. And I did it with Ben. It was absolutely fantastic, but he did it very, very differently to what my initial idea for it was. And what worries me about that is everyone talks about, I say everyone, all the people I talk to about it say that the film's really like quite heartwarming and quite nice. And I'm wondering whether that is Ben's doing, if that makes sense.
Right.
And whether what I did for that project was not necessarily the thing that people like. Which isn't a bad thing, because ultimately if people like it, then people like it, that's great. But yeah, so that's something I think about a bit, whether the idea that I had was just the seed of something that was developed much better by the people that were in it. But, yeah.
I wonder how often that happens in the industry, where a film that's written is like, it's all right, it's a good plot, but it shoots off because of the actor.
Yeah.
I didn't think that was like, I think I still would have enjoyed it if I assumed the character of Ben was a bit more, like, he's very warm, like you said, he's smiley, and
he's a much nicer guy than I initially planned. I don't know, because I'm thinking of trying to develop it into something more and try and get a bit more money and more actors and stuff behind it. And yeah, I don't know whether to push for just continue trying to do what Ben did and improve on it, or whether to try and go back to what the original idea was, which is just a grizzly old guy. But also, the point is, it's not enough to hold its own for an hour and a half. Just that. So we've got to really develop the character, and the character's where it'll where the majority of the humour and just plot will come from. Plot should always obviously come from like character initially, but it would be a really different film if it was a film about Ben the Lollipop Man, or if it was a film about Steve Oram the Lollipop Man. So that's where I'm sort of at, that balancing act and juggling the two ideas, seeing which one works, which one I want to pursue.
Wow. I feel like you could pursue that, the grittier side, because with characters that kind of like the character Ben created, it's interesting, but I feel like an arc would be difficult. Not dissing Ben's performance in any way. I thought it was hilarious. But for an hour of a warm guy, it may not be as interesting. It may not drag you in as much as this gritty.
I completely agree. It's the arc that's the problem. It works for a 5-minute short because you're just seeing this guy who doesn't change. And not to say you can't have features that have characters that don't have an arc. Like there are loads, like Nightcrawler. Have you seen Nightcrawler?
Yeah.
Yeah, he doesn't change at all.
That's true, yeah.
Yeah, but I think the stuff I want to do mainly will have arcs, and I think that's just going to happen naturally. Really, I think it's more difficult to write a film without a character arc than a film with one, because I think you'll get stuck pretty soon.
Yeah.
So yeah, certainly there's a clear path of someone who's angry all the time. If you start with a character that's angry all the time and works with kids, you sort of promise the audience by starting it that way that he'll become nice. Like it's just sort of the people will predict that that's where it will go.
Yes, yeah. And if you didn't have that,
yeah,
that
might not be as satisfying.
I think it would be even more satisfying. I personally.
Oh, you think if it stays angry? I think you'd really like Sightseers.
Okay.
I think I'd try and find where you can watch. I think I've got a DVD somewhere. Who uses DVDs these days?
Ugh, ancient.
Yeah, no, I'll link it to you because it's very good. And just the way you're talking, I think it's something you'll be interested in.
Yeah, I like the different stuff. You've seen Parasite, I noticed from your story. That is
so
brilliant.
Good.
It is.
I really like Parasite because it makes me feel like I'm watching something like artistic when actually it did just win Best Film at the Oscars. So it makes me feel like I'm doing like some deep research into like artistic Korean cinema, but actually it's just something that got a big release in the UK and many people have watched. I don't know why it does that. It does something, it's really clever about how it feels like it's something that, like a hidden gem that you've discovered personally, whilst also being really open and everyone giving it so much praise. I don't know how it does that, but it's good.
That's so true. I've never noticed that with a film before, yeah.
Yeah, I think context is a really important thing for lots of films. Like, something I'm writing at the moment is in the genre of folk horror. Are you familiar?
I'm not, no.
So have you seen The Wicker Man from the 70s? Not the one with Nick Cage from 2006. It's a remake. Have you seen that one?
I haven't seen either of them.
Oh, I don't know. That's great. Don't watch the 2006 one. It's awful. But it's basically just about cults and like the British countryside and things like that. Did you see Midsommar? It came out
Oh my God,
last year.
I love that film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's that sort of thing, but like it sort of came from originally like sort of British independent stuff. And I really want to do stuff like that. And there's a bit of a boom of it now with, like we said, Midsommar. And I honestly think in the UK, because there's loads of little indie ones coming up as well, I think that's to do with Brexit. And I think it's to do with the fear of being isolated and not having immediate contact with everyone else. Because a lot of them will be sat on islands and there's always some excuse as to why they can't leave and stuff like that. Like, oh no, there's no phone service. Oh no, what a shame. Oh no, you're on an island and all the boats have stopped going. It's all that sort of stuff. It's all a bit cheesy, but I think that's what it is. I think you've got to look at where things are, like contextually, like loads of stuff about digital horror and things like that, like Black Mirror and Unfriended, that film that was on like Skype or something ages ago. That all came about when like social media was really taking off. And I think there's a film I just saw added to Netflix called like Influencer or something. but it's about this guy. He's like an Uber driver and just goes around like killing people who he takes in his Uber driver, but he live streams it all on his phone.
I've seen that. It's the same guy from Stranger Things.
Yes, yeah. Do you know what it's called? It's not called Influencer.
No, it's not Swipe. It's a Slash. I cannot remember.
Yeah, but some sort of word relating to social media is what it is. But no, yeah, all that sort of stuff's coming about of its time, and obviously that couldn't have happened 10 years ago because it's not a thing. So you've just got to look at where stuff's coming from, where it's going, and what you think would be relevant. And I think that's the best way to cut through, and find an audience for stuff is making it relevant at the time. The problem is films take so long to get made, as you know.
Yeah.
And sometimes you sort of miss the boat. But
that definitely happened to me. I tried to write a music video, but I didn't have the budget. I didn't have the right equipment. And when you're writing a film, it's like your baby. You want to get it right.
Yeah.
I couldn't with the equipment I had. And by that time it had passed, and it had some reference to COVID. It was like this cult that used like the plague doctor masks.
Oh, I love those. Yeah. I've been looking at loads of stuff like that for my research for this film that I was talking about.
The one with your aunt? Or
No, this feature that I'm writing. It's called Yonder. It's I don't know, there's no point in me saying much about it because the interest is at the end. And so it's about a horse rider who has a horrific accident, and then as part of his recovery decides to he can't ride anymore, obviously, because he's horrifically injured himself in some nondescript way, which I haven't established yet. And he decides to go to this village called Damton, which features some very strangely acting horses. And that's my elevator pitch for that film. Which
I like that concept. Is it to do with viruses or?
It's not to do with viruses.
I don't want to.
I'll tell you about it afterwards, though.
Okay. Yeah, we don't want.
But it's less. It's one of those films that uses that as the framing device, but it's not actually about that.
It's not about the horses.
It's about him as a character, which sounds so pretentious, but it's about him and his conflicts, but it takes the shape of a folk horror film.
That's interesting. I look forward to hearing more about this afterwards.
Well, I feel like it's good, but I'll never know until it's made and people see it.
Well, but using folk horror, like, is there a cult or?
It's one of those villages that's sort of out of time and doesn't really have much of a connection to the outside world, and they're all sort of a bit, incestuous and a bit sort of deliverance-y.
Ooh, Deliverance.
Have you seen Deliverance?
I haven't seen
Deliverance. It's a film set in the deep south of America with loads of it's like sort of culty stuff with loads of incest people, and they've all got some facial disfigurements and things. Oh. It's a very, very horrible film. It's from like the 70s or 80s, I think. I don't know. My cinema history is not that great. But again, worth a watch.
You seem to have a lot of really good film recommendations.
I say that, but like, I don't say that. You say that. But I don't watch... the stuff I watch usually is because somebody else has said. Like, I don't find... It's very rare that I'll find something that no one's told me to watch and think it's really, really good and tell people about it. Usually it's because someone else has gone, hey, this is really good. Or some guy on YouTube has said, oh, one of my favourite films is this. And I go, oh, I'll watch that. Like, have you seen Under the Silver Lake?
No.
I watched that recently. That's weird.
Okay.
It's got Andrew Garfield in it, who's Spider-Man.
Oh, yeah.
Not Tobey Maguire, not Tom Holland, but the one in between.
The Amazing
Spider-Man, exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
That's also really weird and does make you think, but it's a bit strange. Anyway, yeah, it's usually just recommendations or things that I've seen, been recommended to me by other people, and algorithms like Netflix and things that have told me what to watch.
Yeah.
And yeah, no, I think that's really helpful, and I then just pass it on, and people think that I've got a really good knowledge of things, like an encyclopedic knowledge of film, but I don't. I just know what I've watched, and it gets recommended to me, unfortunately. Yeah.
On the walk here, you were saying you're aiming to watch a film a day. without the use of your phone.
Yes, because attention span's so bad. Looking at my phone, looking at something else, whatever. It's really difficult for me to just sit down, and I do feel like I'm betraying the industry a bit by doing that. So I'm making sure that I can sit down and watch something, and it's so much more enjoyable when you do that. But it's just there's so many distractions for stuff nowadays. It's just intense. Just
totally.
bad.
Well, there's actually like same as addiction. Like they have workers at Apple, Samsung, whichever companies that are working hard to make sure
Keep
that
looking at your phone. Yeah,
that's their job.
Exactly.
To get people addicted.
It's really scary.
It's as bad as cigarettes.
Yeah.
Bad.
Yeah.
And what's your favorite genre?
It's changed as I've aged, which makes me sound 105 years old. But when I was a kid, it was always like action adventure stuff, like Indiana Jones and Bond and that sort of stuff. Still like Bond a lot. But then it became a comedy, I think. And now it's still sort of comedy, but I'm getting more into horror. I never used to watch horror at all when I was younger, but now I'm really getting into horror just because I think it's a really interesting vehicle for pushing like other themes.
Yes,
and it's
totally.
also like really interesting to like. The thing about horror is it's good because it's cheap and also it always sells. Like you'll always find there's always that niche market of people that are always just watching horror films.
Yeah.
And like, a lot of people that will watch horror and nothing else, which means and they'll always do well because if you just make like a cheapy, run of the mill, structurally, samey sort of horror film, then people will watch it and it usually do well.
Whoa. Okay.
But yeah, no, I like horrors that don't rely on like jump scares and stuff, and like things that are actually quite clever and quite eerie. Like, I've been looking at another thing. I've been looking a lot of like thinking about what like nightmares I had as a kid when trying to like think about stuff, and I just remember I had this one recurring nightmare, which was just it was really weird. It was just really slowly zooming into a door, and that was it. But it used to shit me up as a kid. I used to wake up and be absolutely terrified. And then I was like, actually, that's really interesting that it wasn't like some killer clown or something that scared me. It was just like a camera move, essentially.
Yeah.
And another thing that always used to scare me as a kid were company intros at the start of films. Now, that sounds very strange.
Company intros?
Yeah.
What's a company?
Like the Universal logo or the Columbia logo. And I'll tell you what it was. I know what it was because I've been looking at it loads and I still get slightly uneasy when it does it. It's when it goes, bah, 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 and then the fanfare ends, goes, boom.
And there's silence.
And it's just ever so slightly too long and it really puts me on edge. Even just doing it then actually freaked me out. I don't know what it is. Really weird, but yeah. So I'm looking into doing that sort of stuff and looking inside my own sort of psyche, which again sounds really pretentious, to see what it is that freaked me out. And I think if I can do that and freak myself out, then hopefully someone else will be freaked out as well.
Definitely. That's really interesting that even as a kid, you like your brain, because it's so psychological, your brain was driven by camera angles.
Honestly, that's why I know that, like, this is why I spend literally all my time researching film or thinking about ideas, because I genuinely don't know what I'll do if I can't make it as a career, because I've literally got no other skills or talents or anything. You can ask my dad. As soon as he asked me to like do something on my car, I'm like, you have to do this, Dad, because I can't. Or literally anything else I can't. I just can't do it. So I need to, like, acting. I gave up acting because when I was a kid I wanted to be an actor, but then it was all right because when I was a kid I was focused on it and nobody else knew what I wanted to do. They were just like, licking walls and doing weird stuff. Whereas like I was actually kind of focused on that. So I was good. I was ahead of the game. And then when we got into when we went to high school together, me and you, people who wanted to do it started doing it, and I was getting focused on doing film, like directing as well as acting. So then people sort of overtook, and then I was like, oh, I don't really care about it that much to pursue, and people were better than I was. So now I do sort of enjoy it a bit, but what I would do is certainly just put roles for myself, if that makes sense. So I just do little bits of scenes that I like. I'm a huge musical fan, So I'd love to direct a musical at some point, but I would not be able to resist putting something in for me to do in that project.
Yeah. You're a good Frankenfurter and a Meatloaf, I think you've played. Yeah.
Oh, honestly, there are a few roles that I would actually do, and I'm totally not good enough for any of them, but the roles that I would do would be Frank from Rocky Horror, Marvin from Falsettos. Have you seen Falsettos?
I've not known.
Oh, that's very good. Okay. Apart from the fact that he is Jewish, so I probably would not be accepted to do that role as a non-Jewish person, which is totally fair enough.
Yeah.
Hedwig from Hedwig and the Angry Inch.
Oh,
you're missing out. That's great.
I'm...
And there's another one. Javert from Les Miserables.
Oh, right. Okay.
I have
seen Les Mis.
You've not seen Les Mis?
I have seen Les Mis.
Okay, right.
Yes. Yeah.
They are like
disgrace.
4 roles I'll do. Oh, actually, and Thénardier from Les Mis, who's the master of the house, because that is a role that they will always give to famous people, including Matt Lucas, who's doing it at the moment. So I think my only way of getting into Les Mis, realistically, would be becoming famous for something else and then somehow trying to jam myself way into that celebrity casting role.
Well, I believe in you.
Thank you.
What's his name?
Thénardier.
Thénardier. Future Thénardier, right here.
I don't know.
Hopefully.
But no, Javert's the role to go for. I think that's where I want to be.
Okay. And if you were to write your own musical, what sort of a role would you put yourself in? Or you don't know yet?
Oh, I don't know. There've been a couple of I came up with. Do you know who Frank Turner is?
Oh, the
rock musician.
Oh no, I was thinking of Pirates of the Caribbean.
That's Will Turner.
Oh.
Frank Turner is a just sort of a rock musician, and I really liked him. And then I didn't really know him before, and then I started listening to some of his music, and I was like, actually, there's actually some really good stuff for like an actual like jukebox musical of his stuff. So I've got a playlist of the songs in what order and what the story would be. However, that'll probably never happen because it's probably not doesn't have a broad enough appeal, I don't think.
Oh,
but you never know. Might
send
happen.
off. Yeah. They've made a musical about King Henry VIII's 6 wives.
Yeah, 6. I met the guy who wrote that before he was famous at the Olivier Awards, which is like the Oscars. Well, no, it's the BAFTAs for theatre, basically, in London. We went because Maisie had one of her shows there. Was nominated for the Best Children's Show, I think. And we went and we bumped into him in the pub, and I was like, "Oh, cool guy," because he's very strikingly makeup and red lips and everything. I was like, "Oh, he seems like a cool guy." And then, like literally, like a year later, I was like, "Hold on, that's the guy I saw in that pub before the Olympics." I know that is. So I say met him. I saw him in a pub, and thought, "Oh, what a cool guy." Wish I had spoken to him now, though. That'd be good, wouldn't it?
He's done well, yeah. But at least you saw him.
Exactly.
That's something.
Yeah.
So wow, he must have been very comfortable with himself to be able to wear the. It was him wearing the red lipstick.
Yeah, and suit as well. And honestly, black tie events really freak me out because I'm always worried that I'm not going to get that in because I've not got the right dress code. Because I was really panicked because I was wearing like this red dinner jacket, which was very nice, and it was absolutely fine. There was no problem with it. I was wearing the right dress code, but I was really panicked because I was like, everybody else is just wearing a black and white normal suit. Oh my god, what if I didn't get in? That would be so embarrassing. Maisie will get turned away from her own awards show. We saw Andrew Lloyd Webber there as well, which was awesome.
Oh Christ, if I could remember who that was.
Andrew Lloyd Webber?
Yes.
Guy who wrote Cats, Starlight Express, Phantom of the Opera. You must know Andrew Lloyd Webber is.
I must, yeah.
Yes.
I recognise the name strongly.
Yes.
But yeah, good for you, wearing a red
yeah,
coat.
it was fine. I just looked a bit different. I panicked. And I was like, the fact that he's got makeup, I'm like, oh, that's fine. He'll be in. That's cool. Yeah. And also, the theatre industry is pretty accepting. You'd be hard pressed. I'm in an actors Facebook group, actually. This is another story. Where I sort of joined just so I could see people posting their headshots and stuff and be like, oh, look, that's a cool person. I'll save that and see whether they're interested. Because also they're going to be cheap if they're in a Facebook group trying to get work. And there was this one woman put in that she was a transgender female. And I think that's right. Is that M2F? Yes, you'd say transgender female if the result was female, wouldn't you?
I don't know well enough.
Well, That's what I'm going to go with.
Okay.
And she was talking about how she's just got her first gig as a female, and everyone was really supportive. Everyone was like, yeah, great. And there was this one guy who was like, oh, actually, you're a he. And in the comments, and I was like, oh my God. And I had to reply, and then I got in a fat Facebook argument with this guy because he's just seemed evil. And the main argument I was making was like, you're never ever going to make it in the acting industry if you're against LGBT rights, because the majority of male actors are going to be gay. Like, in a huge sweeping generalisation of all the male actors that I've met who have done theatre and stuff, a large percentage of them are gay, and that's absolutely wonderful. And I just thought you can't be in an industry like this with hate, just not being for basic human rights.
No, that's crazy. Evil. Be what you want.
Yeah, exactly.
You're very good at that. I think you went through, I wouldn't call it a phase. But
you can call it a phase. That's
I'll call it a phase.
I do still occasionally wear the eyeliner when it suits me and when I can be bothered.
Nice.
But yeah, I still wear eyeliner. Argument with, it's cool, isn't it? It's nice. Some people look at you weird, and some people look at you like they're the sexiest thing that they've ever seen in their life. And
exactly,
I think it's a good trade-off. Because you're getting a bit of both. You're like, oh, now I feel awesome. And then, oh, now I feel shit because this old man who's got like no teeth has looked at me like I'm weird. But
it's better to stand out, I suppose, than blend in.
I think so. And also, like I said earlier, people remember you and then they'll be like, oh, you're that guy who filmed that thing. Oh, cool, you can come film this thing.
Oh, that's true, yeah. Whereas if you were just another dude that didn't wear eyeliner. Yeah. You also wore a fluffy coat around... uni, I remember. That was not uni, sorry, college. That was sick.
Yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate that. I wear a lot of weird stuff. I don't wear as much weird stuff now, but I've still got a big wardrobe that's full of just weird stuff.
How did you get into that? Is that like a sort of admiring fashion or just...
I think so, yeah. I don't know. I think I was sort of always like, I said with the Mighty Boosh, I loved Noel Fielding's character and the fact that he was just wearing all this mental stuff. I thought that was really cool. And like, yeah, I just sort of got into it that way, I think. Just looking at other people like David Bowie and stuff who are all just wearing really cool stuff. And honestly, just how much attention they're getting from people for being cool and being great. And I was like, yeah, I want to be cool and great. I'll just start dressing like them. And then I did. And now I'm cool and great.
You've made it. Look at you go with your fluffy coat. Yeah. You haven't actually... Well, you've got a cardigan on today.
I have, yes. I bought this cardigan the other day and I haven't stopped wearing it since. I'm absolutely in love with it.
It is very nice,
Thank you.
I must say. It's has it got tailcoats?
I don't think it does. Oh, sorry to disappoint.
Oh, God damn, a shame.
Sorry. I like your train spotting hoodie as well. It's very...
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I've started designing hoodies. I've got like Frank written on there because, do you know the Talk to Frank website?
I don't know.
Oh, it's a drug help website, so I thought it was fitting with the train spotting.
Nice thing, like a walking advert.
Exactly, yeah. Don't do drugs, kids. Exactly. It's bad for your health.
If you do, talk to Frank.
Exactly, talk to Frank and he'll tell you what the drugs do before you take them.
Exactly. That's a good
treat. No, don't take drugs.
Don't do drugs.
Don't do them.
That's the lesson of this podcast. Don't do drugs.
Yes, don't do drugs and pursue your dreams.
Oh, that's good.
It's delightful, yeah.
I like that, yeah.
Wonderful. I think I'm going to end it there.
Okie dokie.
Thank you for this.
I'm sorry it wasn't very structured. I'm sure there's lots more interesting things that I could have talked about, but I just went on a rant about my own less interesting stuff.
It was very interesting.
Okay.
It was enjoyable. And there's a reason it's called the Spoken Mess.
Spoken Mess? Ah, yes, of course. Yeah, there you go.
No structure. All right. Bye.
Thank you.